Hello. So you're wanting to make an Outlander Teddy build and you don't really know which heroes are good for that. You don't know where to start. I'm here to help. I really hope this video helps you out. If it does, please do let me know in the comments and please do subscribe to see future videos because I do all sorts of tutorial videos in Save the World that you'll probably find useful. Thank you so much. So we'll start with the Commander. Now, the heroes I'm going to show you here are typically going to be ones you're going to want to use, but you don't necessarily have to do the exact same commander that I've done. It does work swapping certain ones out depending on how you want to go about it. So I'll just show that my hero to play as specifically is Cyberclops. The reason being is it turns Teddy damage into energy damage, which in turn boosts his perk of zapping nearby targets, with energy damage. It also helps out in the higher levels because physical damage doesn't really do much against those elemental types. So I personally really like this one. I also like the fact that it comes with Shock Tower and Seismic Smash. Seismic Smash? Seismic Smash. We'll stick with that. I like the fact that those two perks come with it. Obviously, if you prefer different abilities, maybe pick a different guy as your main guy, but we'll go through the support squad that I've gone for. So for this one, the range is increased by 2 tiles and enemies take more damage based on how far they are. So if we go into here and see the full version, the range is increased by 4 tiles if you use her as your commander, and the damage does go up to a potential of 110% as opposed to 40. So she's not bad as a primary. I have actually used her as my commander before and it is pretty good. So again, if you want to swap her out and put her at the top, that's your choice. Just bearing in mind you don't get the Shock Tower, which I personally find useful, especially on encampment missions. So if you prefer to just zip around with a phase shift, you might want to go with her for your commander. The next one is Berserker perk. So obviously these heroes, there's multiple heroes that have this perk, but you can use the one that I've got here if you want. But Trailblazer AC here has the Berserker perk, which increases Teddy damage, just straight up increases damage by 30%. His main perk increases it by 46%, and Fire Right by 25%, mate. Yeah, so me personally, I don't find this enough of an increase. Going from 30% to 46% isn't that much of an increase. Fire rate is nice, but for me, I wouldn't really ever use this guy as my main, even though he does have the Shock Tower, but the phase shift instead of the Seismic Smash. So again, it's up to you, but I wouldn't really recommend this one personally. If you are finding this video useful, by the way, please do let me know, or if you have any criticisms, let me know as well in the comments. But if you are finding it useful, why don't you drop a subscribe, and then you can see future tutorial videos because they'll probably find them useful as well. Next up, we have Bear With Me. This is one that is absolutely core and fundamental if you are doing a Teddy build. So I've got this on Jingle Jess just because I like the look of Jingle Jess. She is good as the main. I do often use her as the commander because you can see here, Teddy duration increased by 4 seconds, but it increased it by 12 if it's your main character. That is a huge increase. So the actual thing itself, it says here lasts 15 seconds for Teddy, so increasing by 4 seconds isn't really, it's a good increase, it's good to have, but 12 seconds from 15, that's almost doubling the time. That is crazy good. The only downside is she doesn't have the Shock Tower again, so typically I don't use her as the main hero, but she is absolutely essential for any Teddy build. Alright, perfect. Next one, Space Technology. So this is a mythic hero, which I'm not actually sure if that matters much in heroes. I should probably figure that out. But this increases ability energy damage by 15%. Now, you'll notice ability energy damage. That is very specific to my Cyberclops main hero. So if you don't have Cyberclops as your commander, don't have her in your squad. There's literally no need. because your Teddy is not going to be dealing energy damage, this perk is useless for you. So, and I also personally wouldn't recommend having her as your main either. She doesn't even have a Teddy. What a useless person. No, I kid. But yeah, she's just there if you're using Cyberclops. I will show you an alternative if you do swap the commander for someone else. And then finally in my squad, I have the fragment generation. So if you have her as your main, it's every 13 eliminations you gain a new fragment, whereas as secondary squad, it's every 39 eliminations. Now, I feel getting 39 eliminations isn't really that hard, so typically I don't really use her as the main. The only reason it might be useful is because then every time you throw your shock tower down, you can throw that down as really often because you're using the fragment, which makes the cooldown faster. But personally, I think she's just far better off in the secondary. I wouldn't recommend to use her in the main, but I'm not going to tell you what to do. Right, so if you don't use Cyberclops, there are alternatives to the space technology perk. So if we go to Outlander, we have two that I like to use, but there are others, obviously. Feel free to research, but one of the ones I like to use is Impossibility Matrix. So spending a charge fragment reduces the cooldowns by an extra 10%. This means you've got less downtime between Teddies, but if I'm using Cyberclops, I find the energy damage boost to be more of a perk than this extra 10%. There's also decreases gadget cooldowns by 20%, but please do note this doesn't apply to Teddies. Gadgets are specifically these two at the bottom, but having the turret cooldown shorter is, honestly, it is a good thing to have, but not always like cruelly necessary. Another thing you could do if you're not using Cyberclops, or even if you are using Cyberclops, feel free to swap any of these out, maybe the less crucial ones. You could swap them out for another class type. If you like using assault rifles, mess around with it a bit. I've gone over the core part of this squad, but feel free to knock around any other people if you prefer using shotguns, snipers, whatever it might be, swords, whatever, feel free to swap them out. Now, the team perk I like to use for this build is reduces your ability cooldowns by 40%. Now this stacks independently from other cooldown reduction perks. I believe that means it doesn't. So if you had ability cooldowns down here reduce by 50%, it wouldn't do 50% times by 40%. It would be separate. So it basically just means it's not going to be like absolutely OP, but it is powerful. And all it requires for this is 3 heroes with 2 or more stars. That's easy enough for anyone to get. Absolutely beautiful team perk for this squad. And then the gadgets I've gone for the classics, so the turret and the adrenaline rush. So yeah, if you use this build and you swap out some heroes, please feel free to let me know in the comments what you decided to use in those slots. I'd be interested to see if anyone could beat this build. Maybe I'll adopt the build if it is better. But thank you so much for watching. I really do hope you found it useful. Don't forget to subscribe if you did, and thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day.